So folks, one of the main reasons we've made loads of videos about the building of our extension and all the work that we've done on this renovation is because if you understand how a property is put together, then you can understand how to fix it. And in today's video, I'm going to explain probably 5 of the top things that would go through my mind before purchasing a property. And even if you already own a property, you can check these 5 things now, and hopefully this will save you a lot of money in the long term. So all of the things I'm going to be talking about today are kind of external structural things that I think you should keep an eye on. I will make a future video about internal things that you should really check as well, so don't forget to hit subscribe. So folks, we're going to get straight into this one because I don't want it to be too crazily long. And the first thing that I would always check before purchasing a property, and also just as a routine yearly check on our own house, is to check the condition of the roof. Now, how you do this is completely up to you. You can use a pair of binoculars and look slightly unusual standing in the street looking at people's houses, or you could perhaps use a drone, or even just taking a decent quality photograph of the roof and then zooming in on it. But the key thing is that we're looking to make sure that there's basically no holes in the roof, no tiles have slipped. We're looking at the ridge tiles, so that's the tiles going right across the top there, that they're in good condition and that there's no gaps in the mortar between them. We're also looking at like the flashing around the chimney to make sure that that's in good condition. And overall, there just needs to be no place on the roof that water can get through. What I would also suggest doing, if possible, is getting up into the loft and checking the condition of the roof timbers and just make sure nothing's damp. If anything's damp on your rafters in the roof, you need to look into that. That is a problem. And by the way, I know there's grass growing out the top of the chimney. That's another job for another day. Then, coming down from the roof, the next thing that you need to check is the guttering. Is your guttering in good condition and is it working properly? It's a really good idea to try and check this while it's raining if possible, because you get an instant idea of whether or not anything's leaking. Obviously everything should be coming down the nearest downpipe. For us, we have a downpipe here for the lean-to extension, so we just want to make sure when it's raining this is a nice clear drain and there's no problems with blockages or anything like that. If no water's coming out of this, the downpipe might be blocked, and I've seen some pretty horrifically blocked downpipes over the years, so it's something to check out. For the main roof, we've got this downpipe coming down here, and again, exactly the same thing. When it's raining, try and check that there's a good flow of water going into the drain at the bottom. And no, I still haven't sorted out a doorstop. If your roof is in good condition and all your guttering is in good condition, that's a really good start, and you're probably like already ahead of a lot of properties out there. I've seen all sorts of quite major problems over the years just caused by faulty guttering, so it is really something that you need to make sure is working properly. Water is probably the biggest enemy of any house. So again, linked with water, what I would then do is try to check the drains if possible. An easy thing you can do is just flush all the toilets in the house and make sure that water isn't backing up. It should just flow away nice and quickly like any normal toilet. But if possible, try and find all of the inspection chambers around the property, such as this. This is an inspection chamber. Take the lid off it and just check that there's no obvious problems like blockages. And what you can also do is flush the toilets with a bit of toilet paper in and just check that you can see the toilet paper going down the drain and everything looks clear. Do that for every inspection chamber around the property, and that is a good indication that your drains are probably working as designed. But just bear in mind, it's not a guarantee, because on older properties, the sort of thing that you can run into is that the old clay pipes connecting, for example, downpipes to the main drain, because a lot of old properties will be using combined sewers where everything goes down the main drain. But what can happen is the old clay pipes can break, which is exactly the problems that we had here. And then what happens is all your rainwater is effectively just getting funneled underneath your house, which is bad. And by the way, if you have a new house and you find there's rainwater going down your main sewer drains, that's a really bad sign. You need to get that checked out. So once I know that rainwater isn't coming in from the top of the property, what I want to make sure is that dampness isn't causing a problem from the ground up. This can be a major problem, especially in older properties, and I've seen some older properties where they've paid for several injection damp-proof courses and it's never sorted the issue out. I've also seen many where they've had all that work done that turned out to be a guttering problem, but that's another whole story. But if you've got suspended wooden floors in your property, then it's essential that you've got good subfloor ventilation, and this is done with these air bricks. Generally you'll have them at the front and back of the property so that you get a free flow of air all the way from the front to the back, and there should be nothing obstructing that flow of air underneath the floor inside the property either. Unfortunately, that's a very difficult thing to check without actually ripping floorboards up, but the thing you need to be looking for is that there's air bricks at the front and back of the property and they're not blocked or obstructed. Again, another thing that I've seen happening in older properties is that people get drafts coming up from under the floor, and in order to stop the drafts, what they end up doing is either blocking up or completely removing the air bricks, and then they start wondering why all their floor joists are riddled in woodworm. There are many different types of air bricks, different designs, colours, materials, all sorts. They're basically designed to allow airflow through but not let rodents and things like that get in. You can sometimes get problems with insects and things getting in, so really quite common to find a bee's nest or a wasp's nest on the other side of an air brick inside the house. If you see a lot of bees or wasps coming in through air bricks, it might be worth putting some sort of mesh over them, but that is going to probably degrade the airflow underneath your house. So personally speaking, I wouldn't obstruct the air brick holes unless you've got a problem. The key thing is that if you've got suspended floors, underneath should be nice and dry, all of your floor timbers should be nice and dry, and your air bricks are the thing that makes all of that kind of happen. How do you know if you've got timber suspended floors? Well, for a start, you'll have floorboards, but these aren't floorboards. This is engineered flooring over the top of floorboards. But the other telltale sign is that if you jump up and down on the floor, it should sound a bit hollow and have a little bit of give to it. Unlike a concrete floor, I mean, if you just jump up and down on concrete, you'll quickly tell the difference between that and jumping up and down on a timber suspended floor. And while we're at this level, we might as well check out the damp-proof course as well, because that can be the root of all sorts of problems. You can find your damp-proof course by looking for this kind of black line in the brickwork. On this older property, this is kind of a bitumen damp-proof course, but on newer properties, it'll be made of plastic. This damp-proof course should be at least 150 millimeters above ground level. So the damp-proof course has a really specific job to do in that it needs to prevent water being sucked up from ground level up to your higher level brickwork. Now on your external brickwork, I'm sure you're thinking, well, who cares if water's getting sucked up your brickwork? Well, one of many problems that you can run into on your external leaf is that often above the damp-proof course, it's a different type of facing brick that gets used. And if water gets into those bricks and that water then freezes, those bricks will basically just fall to bits. That's why we use engineering bricks below damp-proof level, because these are much harder bricks and won't get damaged by frost. But obviously on the internal side, if you've got water getting sucked up through the wall, then that water's got to go somewhere, and it'll end up coming through your walls on the inside of the property. You'll end up with mold forming and all sorts of other issues that you don't really want. A damp-proof course in good condition can resolve all of those problems. But as with everything, it's not quite that straightforward. So these are modern engineering bricks that we use below damp-proof course level, but older properties aren't going to have those. Remember what I was saying about engineering bricks being much harder bricks? Well, in older properties, all of the bricks are really hard bricks, and that's why it can be really difficult drilling into the walls of older properties, because you've effectively got walls that are just made of engineering bricks. Now, obviously, you would probably have some sort of concrete foundation underneath your walls, although depending on how old your house is, you might not. It's not uncommon for these to be laid straight onto the soil, but let's hope at least they're not just being laid on grass. But for the purposes of showing you how this all works, let's imagine we've got an old house that happens to have a cavity wall. Older houses, the cavity's probably not going to be very thick, maybe 50 millimeters or something like that. And then imagine we've got our damp-proof course over the top of that. This is a modern plastic damp-proof membrane. and then we've got the rest of the wall going up after that. I don't particularly want to cut my damp-proof membrane, so I'm just going to kind of feed it round here, just to pretend that we've got that on the outer and inner leaves. What can happen is, inside the cavity, this tends to fill up with junk. So imagine this cavity goes all the way up the property, all the way to your top floor, and over time, bits of rubbish can just kind of collect down this gap here. It can be old bits of mortar that's come off the back of the brickwork while they've been building the wall. It could be that an overzealous tradesperson has knocked a few bricks out higher up in the wall, and all of the bits of broken brick and mortar have fallen down the cavity, and over the space of a long time, this cavity can just fill up past the damp-proof course level, and that forms an internal bridge of the damp-proof course. So imagine someone then comes along later down the line and they lay some new paving or a patio or something like that, which bridges that damp-proof course, and now any moisture and water at this level is going to penetrate through this brickwork here, which is above damp-proof course level, through all of this junk that's inside the cavity, and it'll be transferred through to your inner brickwork, which is also above damp-proof course level, and from there, through capillary action, it'll just work its way up through the wall until it dries itself out on the inner leaf of the property. So making sure that patios and paving stones and things like that haven't been laid in such a way that it bridges the damp-proof course layer is really important. That goes for flower beds and grass and everything that's butting up to your property. And obviously the other thing to remember here is that if your damp-proof course isn't in good condition, so imagine this damp-proof course is completely disintegrated to the point that it just doesn't work anymore at all. So again, moisture being sucked up through the brickwork is going to transfer itself across into the inner leaf through all the junk in the cavity. So what can you do about that? Not a whole lot. What you can do potentially is take out individual bricks either on the outside or the inside and literally reach into the cavity and try and clear some of this stuff out if possible. But what you might more realistically end up having to do is put a new chemical injection damp-proof course in slightly higher up beyond where the DPC is being bridged. Go and check out the Scale Builder channel, because Roger's done all sorts of videos about damp-proof courses and things like that, and he's probably got a much better idea than me of how to fix these sort of issues. But it is something just to look out for on your property. Do you have a damp-proof course? What sort of condition is it in? And is it being bridged either externally or potentially inside the cavity? But also bear in mind that a lot of older houses won't have a cavity at all. You'll end up with a wall that maybe looks something like that, you know. And when there's no cavity, you run into even bigger problems with damp. So yeah, that's another much bigger topic for another video. Now, obviously, that is a far from exhaustive list, but it's a starting point. If you're buying your first property or you're buying an older property and you're not entirely 100% of what to look out for, you've got to get a survey done. But at the same time, I've had surveys done where they don't even bother going into the property, they barely even look at it from the street, and I've come across some fairly serious issues in houses where the surveyors just never picked up on it. I'm not having a bash at the surveyors, they're normally fairly restricted on time, and in a lot of cases you just can't properly inspect a property without, you know, taking plaster off the walls and going up into the loft and getting under the floorboards. That's the reality of the situation. I will be covering off in a future video some of the things that you should be really looking out for inside the property as well, but we'll keep that for a future episode. So don't forget to hit subscribe. Also, don't forget to subscribe to my Andy Mac channel as well, because all of the gardening related content, or the vast majority of it, is now going on to my second-ish channel, linked down in the description below. But if you are wondering where certain garden related videos have disappeared to off this channel, they are now on my Andy Mac channel, which is going to become much of a more permanent home for all of the gardening content that I'm making as well, because I really don't have a clue what I'm doing around the garden, and we kind of figured, well, you can come with us on our learning journey in the garden. Now, I did promise a bonus thing to look out for, and the reason I haven't included this in my top 5 is that it's quite a difficult thing to check for, and if you've got this problem, you really need to get some expert assistance. And to explain what this potential problem is, let's just have another look at our fake cavity brick wall that we've got set up here. So imagine this is the inner leaf, and then we've got our cavity, which is normally filled with insulation, and then we've got our outer leaf. And to prevent this outer leaf from basically just falling over, the two leaves get physically tied together with things known as wall ties. This is a very typical type of modern wall tie that gets used now, and this is a 100-year-old wall tie taken out of our wall when we were doing some demolition works. As you can see, it's in pretty good condition considering how old it is. What can sometimes happen on older properties that happen to have cavity walls, if they've used poor quality wall ties, then these can corrode away to nothing, and then the outer leaf ends up being completely detached from the inner leaf. Absolute worst case scenario, your outer leaf can literally just fall away. Now, I know that sounds a little bit scary, and I don't want to panic you because it's very, very, very rare. But the telltale signs is when your outer leaf of brickwork is maybe bowing, or it doesn't seem to be perfectly plumb. If you look down like the edge of the wall and it looks like the wall is a weird shape, then I would suggest that you get a professional in to check whether or not your wall ties have corroded. It's a really quite serious problem that needs to be addressed quickly if you do have that kind of issue. But the good news is that it's very rare, and as I say, that's a 100-year-old wall tie out of our property, and it's in absolutely perfect condition. So basically, don't panic, but I do think it's something that you need to be aware of. For now, folks, let me know down in the comments below, what would your top 5 things be to check when buying a property? What sort of horror stories have you run into? And what would be your number 1 thing that if you found that problem on a property, you would just walk away and you would not buy it? I'd love to know. Pop it down below. For now, folks, as per usual, look after each other, be nice to each other. We shall see you next time. Ta-ta, bye.